Have you ever noticed how two people can describe the exact same thing in completely different ways? And yet, one version feels inspiring, while the other feels terrifying. Here's a simple example. Imagine a doctor tells you, "This surgery has a 90% success rate." You probably feel relieved, right? But what if instead, the doctor said, "This surgery has a 10% chance of failure"? Suddenly, it sounds frightening, even though both statements mean the exact same thing. That, right there, is the power of framing. Framing is one of the most common, and often unconscious, dark psychology tricks that people use every single day. What is fascinating is that you don't have to be a manipulative genius to use it. Politicians, advertisers, even parents and teachers use framing constantly, sometimes without realizing just how much it shapes decisions. Why framing works on the brain. Our brains are wired to avoid pain and seek reward. But here is the catch. We don't process gain and loss equally. Psychologists call this loss aversion. Basically, the pain of losing something feels much stronger than the joy of gaining it. So, if a message is framed as a loss, it hits much harder than if the same message is framed as a gain. For example, a marketing ad might say, "Gain frame. Save 20% when you shop today." Loss frame. Don't miss out. ULL, lose 20% savings. If you wait, both are true. But the don't miss out version sparks more urgency, more anxiety, and often more sales. This isn't just theory. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman proved through experiments that people consistently choose differently, depending on whether a choice is presented as avoiding a loss or gaining a benefit, even when the outcomes are mathematically identical. Everyday examples of framing in action. Food industry. Labels like 90% fat-free sound healthier than 10% fat. Same product, totally different perception. Politics. A candidate may say they created 1 million jobs, instead of unemployment is still high. Both describe the same economy, but one feels uplifting while the other feels disappointing. Relationships. Imagine someone says, "I spent so much time with you," versus "I don't spend time with anyone else." The first feels like love, the second like isolation. Framing is sneaky because it hides in plain sight. It's not about facts. It's about how facts are packaged. And once you become aware of it, you start to see it everywhere. The dark side of framing. Here is where it gets darker. Framing doesn't just influence what we choose. It can also make us blind to better options. A clever manipulator can frame a decision in such a way that you feel there are only two possible choices, when in reality, there might be 10. For example, a salesperson might say, "Would you like the deluxe plan or the premium plan?" Notice how the basic plan isn't even mentioned, making it seem like saying no isn't an option. A politician might frame an issue as either you support this policy or you don't care about safety. That paints opponents as heartless, even if they just have better solutions. This trick works because humans crave mental shortcuts. We don't want to overthink every single decision, so we lean on how information is framed. The psychology of yes. Let's break it down into a real-world scenario. Imagine you're in a coffee shop. The cashier says, "Would you like a large coffee for just 50 cents more?" That's a framing trick. Notice they didn't say, "Do you want to spend extra money today?" Instead, they framed it as a small upgrade, not a loss. And guess what? Many people automatically say yes, not because they needed more coffee, but because the way the choice was presented made the yes feel smarter than the no. Can you resist framing? Here's the funny part. Even when you know about framing, you can still fall for it. Psychologists have found that being aware of cognitive biases doesn't necessarily protect you from them. Your emotions still react before your logic has a chance to step in. But here's a tip. Whenever you hear a persuasive statement, ask yourself, how else could this be framed? If the doctor says 90% survival, flip it in your head to 10% death. By reframing it yourself, you regain a little power over the trick. Why people use framing without realizing not every use of framing is malicious. Parents often frame tasks to motivate children. If you finish your homework, you'll have more playtime. Teachers might say, "This exam is your chance to prove your progress." Even in friendships, someone might say, "I can't wait to see you again," instead of "It has been too long." These are all forms of framing, softening reality, motivating behavior, or guiding choices. And most of the time, people don't consciously think, "I'm using a dark psychology trick right now." It just comes naturally. But in the wrong hands, advertisers, manipulators, controlling partners, framing can box people into decisions they didn't truly want to make. A quick thought experiment. Let's say you're a leader of a team. You need your group to stay late and finish a project. Which statement is more likely to get compliance? "If we don't finish tonight, we'll lose this client. If we finish tonight, we'll secure this client." Both are true, but version 1 is framed as a loss. And guess what? Loss framing usually triggers stronger motivation, because our brains are wired to avoid pain at all costs. Now, imagine you start noticing this in your own conversations. How many times have you unconsciously chosen your words in a way that made someone say yes more easily? Teaser for what's next. Framing is powerful, but it's not the only unconscious psychological trick people use every day. Sometimes, manipulation doesn't happen through words at all. It happens through behavior. In the next section, we'll explore how simple body language, like mirroring someone's tone or posture, can build instant trust and make people feel connected, even if it's completely staged. Picture this. You're meeting someone for the very first time. Within minutes, you feel strangely comfortable, like you've known them for years. They seem to get you. You leave the conversation thinking, "Wow, we just clicked." But here's the secret. That magical click might not be an accident. It could be the result of mirroring, one of the most subtle dark psychology tricks people use without even realizing. What is mirroring? Mirroring happens when someone unconsciously copies another person's body language, tone and voice, or even word choice. If you cross your arms, they cross theirs. If you lean in, they lean in. If you speak softly, they lower their tone too. On the surface, it feels natural. But your brain interprets this mimicry as a sign of similarity and safety. Psychologists call this the chameleon effect. We like people who seem like us. This is why salespeople, negotiators, and even pickup artists train themselves to mirror. Done skillfully, it can create instant trust, disarm skepticism, and make someone more likely to say yes. Every day mirroring without realizing. Here's the interesting part. You probably do this yourself without noticing. Ever laughed just because someone else laughed? Or found yourself adopting a friend's slang after hanging out for a while? That's mirroring. It's a natural social glue. Humans are wired to connect by sensing up. Our breathing, our gestures, even our brainwaves can fall into rhythm when we feel connected. But when used deliberately, mirroring can cross into manipulation. A skilled manipulator might use it not to build genuine connection, but to manufacture it. Why it works so well? This psychology is simple. We trust people who seem familiar. Mirroring sends a subconscious message. I'm like you. You can relax around me. Studies show that waiters who repeat a customer's order word for word receive bigger tips than those who simply say, "Got it." That tiny act of verbal mirroring makes customers feel heard and valued. Now imagine this in a negotiation. One person mirrors the other's tone, posture, and key phrases. Suddenly, the other side feels understood, even if nothing has truly changed. That emotional comfort can tip the scales in the manipulator's favor. The dark edge of mirroring used positively. Mirroring builds rapport, but in darker contexts, it can be a trap. Toxic partners, con artists, and scammers often mirror intensely in the early stages of interaction. Victims describe it as, "It felt like they were my soulmate." In reality, the manipulator was just reflecting everything back. Likes, dislikes, gestures, words, until trust was secured. This is why awareness matters. The next time someone feels too in sync with you, pause and ask, is this connection real, or is it being engineered? Teasing. What's next? So far, we've seen how framing shapes decisions with words, and how mirroring manipulates trust with behavior. But there's another psychological force at play, one that makes people panic, rush, and follow the crowd without questioning. In the next section, we'll look at how scarcity and social proof hijack rational thinking, and why phrases like limited time offer or everyone is doing it can override logic in seconds. Have you ever been scrolling through an online store and seen a little message that says, only 2 left in stock? Or maybe a flashing banner that screams, sale ends in 3 hours. Suddenly, your heart beats a little faster. You weren't even sure you wanted the product, but now it feels urgent. Like if you don't act immediately, you'll regret it. That feeling isn't random. It's the result of 2 of the most powerful psychological triggers: scarcity and social proof. The scarcity illusion. Scarcity makes us believe something is more valuable simply because it seems rare or limited. Think about diamonds, limited edition sneakers, or even exclusive memberships. The item itself may not be extraordinary, but the fact that it's hard to get makes it irresistible. Advertisers know this better than anyone. That's why e-commerce sites show fake counters like only 5 left, or why travel sites warn 3 people are looking at this hotel right now. These are engineered illusions of scarcity, designed to trigger a fear of missing out. What psychologists call and here's the kicker. Even when people know it's a trick, it still works. Our brains evolved in environments where scarcity was real. Food, shelter, survival resources. Missing out back then could mean death. That ancient wiring still drives us today, even if the scarce item is just a discounted toaster. The pull of social proof. Scarcity alone is powerful, but when you combine it with social proof, the effect multiplies. Social proof is our natural tendency to copy what others are doing, especially when we feel uncertain. If everyone else is buying it, it must be good, right? You see this everywhere. Restaurant apps highlighting dishes labeled most popular. Streaming platforms showing #1 trending now. Online reviews where 5-star ratings make us trust strangers over our own judgment. Even babies follow social proof. Experiments show that infants are more likely to play with a toy if they see adults showing interest in it first. It's hardwired. Now, in darker hands, this becomes a psychological trap. Cult leaders, fake gurus, and manipulative marketers exploit social proof by showing inflated numbers, paid testimonials, or staged popularity. The more people appear to believe in something, the harder it is for an individual to resist. Why we fall for it. The scary part is how automatic this response is. Scarcity sparks panic. I'll lose it if I don't act now. Social proof sparks comfort. If others are doing it, it must be safe. Together, they create the perfect storm. Urgency plus validation. That's why flash sales, countdown timers, and phrases like bestseller work so consistently. They short-circuit rational thought and push us into making impulsive decisions, bringing it all together. So far, we've explored 3 dark psychology tricks people use, often without realizing. Framing, twisting words to shape perception. Mirroring, copying behavior to build trust. Scarcity and social proof, engineering urgency and popularity to override logic. These tricks are everywhere. In advertising, politics, relationships, and even casual conversations. Most people use them unconsciously, but some use them deliberately. Too money. The question is, what do you do with this knowledge? The answer is simple. Stay aware. Whenever you feel rushed, overly convinced, or instantly comfortable with someone, pause. Ask yourself, is this my real choice, or is it being nudged by psychology? Awareness doesn't erase the influence, but it gives you just enough distance to make a decision that's truly yours. Outro. And that wraps up today's video on 5 dark psychology tricks people use without realizing. Which of these tricks have you noticed in your own life? Have you ever caught yourself using one without thinking? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button Subscribe for more science and psychology breakdowns, and turn on the bell so you never miss an upload. Because remember, the mind is powerful, but so is awareness.